Considering everything we know about Ripple, their purpose, what's at stake, who's involved, and what they're trying to accomplish, and considering the world's a stage where social media creates the ability to socially engineer people with artificial narratives, could certain narratives we perceive as naturally occurring actually be part of an overall strategy? Could this idea be applied to the timely FUD that surrounds Ripple and XRP? There's just so many partners outside of Ripple that have interest in this company, the United Nations, WEF, and IMF, the parents of the SDGs, to name a few. It would actually make sense that a nuanced PR plan would include an evolving strategy for keeping sentiment balanced around this future tech. They would at least try. And since I've been seeing a ton of FUD narratives surrounding XRP lately, I thought this would be a good time to explain why the FUD, which stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt, doesn't get to me anymore. And why, to me, many of it feels artificial or designed to discourage retail investors, which is us, from buying this chosen token at low price levels in the short term by introducing ideas engineered to cause uncertainty. Remember, you can't believe the world's a stage and then excuse a future powerhouse of global digital payments connected to the playwriters themselves from participating in staged narratives. That wouldn't make any sense, right?
We have been leapfrogged by others, by digital currency, by digital Chinese currency. Why? Because frankly, our central bank has been slow. And there's an appointment coming in January of 22. The president's got to decide whether to change over who's leading the Federal Reserve.
You say XRP is a security?
Well, we're in court and active discussions and litigation on that.
You're in litigation because you do say it's a security.
How would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended.
I'm asking you, sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
Without speaking to any one.
I know you've repeatedly said you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to a second one, the second largest market cap here.
And the Federal Reserve runs our payment system. And I think we need to move that Federal Reserve into the modern era.
What about in 5 minutes if we hear that the world is trading oil in this digital yuan? What does that do to our economy? I think we really have to ask some of these questions so we don't have to wait 3 or 4 days for you to call a meeting every time something important happens. Thank you.
I think it's strange to me that XRP is in such a unique position and that the market hasn't kind of rewarded that. XRP in the US is one of the few things we can say definitively is not a security. With ETH, I don't know how that's going to play out.
A lot of the heads of the SEC, prior and current, were seed investors in Ethereum, that they participated in the ICO of Ethereum. Therefore, they have a vested interest in seeing Ethereum succeed as the main blockchain. And the thing that you had seen right now is what is one of the biggest holders of Ethereum across the entire world.
Speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. If there's a group of entrepreneurs in
I'm asking about one.
The public is anticipating a profit based on the...
I'm asking a specific question, Chair Gensler. Is Ether a commodity or security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals...
I'm asking about the facts and the law sitting in your seats and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because...
I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset. What is your view?
And my view is if there's a group of individuals in the middle that the public is...
All right.
A company called Consensus. Consensus owns MetaMask. They're super centralized, and now we're in a scenario where we're no longer proof of work, but we're proof of stake, which means what? Whoever owns the most Ethereum and stakes the most Ethereum owns the most nodes, therefore has the most voting power. And who owns that? Consensus, the guys that created, co-created Ethereum. So it's a very centralized network, and who owns and co-invested in Consensus? JP Morgan or Chase Bank or a bunch of banks, I don't know, HSBC, I don't remember exactly which ones. So you're in a scenario right now where, dude, like banks are still, they got their hand in the game, they're playing their game. I think it's a dirty play. That's
in an era where bipartisanship can feel scarce, Gensler has done such a terrible job running the SEC that he has managed to unite members on both sides of the aisle, condemning his failed leadership.
Ripple's in a position where we can serve a lot of enterprise use cases for finance.
Ripple's an unregistered security. It's pretty obvious. There's a company. The company owns a bunch of it. They sell it to the general public. They never took the company public. There's no disclosures.
There were a couple of interesting things after that Bitcoin ETF was approved in that statement. One, and I paraphrase here, was effectively Gary Gensler saying, just because we allowed the Bitcoin ETF, don't think we're now going to allow a bunch of other crypto assets. The second interesting thing was the price of Ether skyrocketed immediately after, on hopes that there could now next be an ETH ETF. What are the chances of that?
So the SEC's position is you're selling an unregistered security. It's a crypto token, right? Just like Ethereum is an unregistered security. It's controlled by a few people in the Ethereum Foundation and Consensus.
Fair. Then
just
here's a
like
question.
FTT, just like Solana.
Perfect. But here's a follow-up on that,
They're all
Michael.
unregistered securities.
Here's a follow-up on that.
Right.
I don't own a single Ripple, just so we know. So full
Yeah.
disclaimer, I'm not a Ripple guy. But if both of them are unregistered, why target Ripple and not target Ethereum the way he is targeting Ripple? And by the way, this is coming from a guy that owns Ethereum, not Ripple.
Yeah, I think the best thing for the world would be if the SEC pretty much shut down all of it. It's all unethical.
The SEC clearly lost as a matter of law, and the judge wrote, XRP is not a security, as a kind of intrinsic thing.
Gary Gensler has worked to consolidate his own power, even though it means crushing opportunities and, frankly, the financial future of this country. Rogue bureaucrats like Gensler are supposed to be working for the people, not reigning over them. He has wasted a large part of the SEC's resources to wage war on the crypto industry.
Ripple value in XRP.
The strategy, however, has not been successful for him as the SEC continues to lose again and again in the courts on its crusade against the digital asset innovation in this country. It's time for the SEC to return to its mission and protect opportunities for every American who wants to participate in the greatest capital markets in the world. Digital asset innovation is an important part of that. What Gary Gensler doesn't understand is fighting against crypto innovation in America isn't going to stop it.
Remember me showing you XRP and showing you the 100 banks that was using XRP technology? Remember, Ripple is the company and Ripple owns XRP. XRP is a technology. I showed people that 2 years ago. Now you got Russian banks letting you know, yeah, we're definitely, you know what I'm saying, using XRP's technology. It was like, yeah, I told y'all that 2 years ago.
He is only going to push crypto innovation off of American soil. This is exactly how disasters like FTX occur.
Holding back crypto at large is tribalism. I mean, Ripple has invested in over 60 companies. We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars, close to $500 million, in about 60 different companies across the crypto landscape. Some of them are involved with XRP, some of them aren't. I truly believe all boats can rise, and I think the whole industry, frankly, needs to stop taking shots at each other and try to support each other and try to actually help people be successful.
Amazing ecosystem worldwide, and it takes it very seriously that Dubai is actually now at the center of everything that Ripple is doing as well, whether it is locally, regionally, or even internationally. And Ripple swell being in the UAE is a great testament to that.
Would welcome an XRP ETF then?
We would certainly welcome it, and I think it's inevitable that there'll be, multiple ETFs around different tokens. And I think you'll even see ETFs potentially around baskets that also, I think, further diversify that risk.
Are you in talks with the largest issuers, particularly BlackRock, to get this done?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. I know BlackRock has said some things publicly. And we
end up in a world where the monetary monopoly is basically replaced by a monetary ecosystem.
I think it makes sense for the XRP community overall. Ripple obviously is a very important stakeholder in the XRP ecosystem, but we're not the only player. And look, we've seen, before the SEC lawsuit, XRP was the second most valuable digital asset. I think because of the headwinds of that lawsuit, we've now seen that largely abate. But the long-term view on these things is about, how do you create utility and really solve real-world problems with these different digital assets?
And we end up in a world where we start honoring the complexity and the uncertainty we are facing in the age of the Anthropocene.
The United States should want digital asset businesses under its regulatory umbrella and purview so that we have a safer digital asset ecosystem. Many people are concerned that Kamala Harris would actually appoint Elizabeth Warren or Gary Gensler to be her Treasury Secretary, which would only make matters worse.
It makes the entire system more stable, more predictable. And we start really financing our future by introducing a new currency system. In a dual currency system, we would start creating multiple second round effects. Each time you use this green dollar, each time we use this green currency, we would basically create one step closer to a common green future.
Their mission to upend free markets, innovation, and global competitiveness would destroy our financial system. We can't let that happen. America is ready for the pro-crypto president, and there's only one candidate who has promised to fire Gary Gensler on day one.
So what's required is so-called semi-permissive, fully regulated, distributive ledger technology-based digital currencies issued by an authority like the central bank with a smart contract. So what you're introducing with this blockchain technology, you condition the consumption, you condition the investment into our common future.
There were many XRP holders who wanted me to ask you if Bitwise was going to do anything regarding XRP, given the ruling in the lawsuit against Ripple, given that it has some level of clarity now that intrinsically it's not a security. Anything you can share there?
We agreed on already in 2015 to begin with. You know, in 2015, we agreed that we want the SDGs as our common roadmap.
Because we have a political consensus on these goals, almost 100% on the globe.
Yeah, it is a holding now of the Bitwise 10. So it is the third largest holding at a 3.2% weight. You know, we removed it from the index the day the lawsuit came from the SEC because it injected a fair amount of...
And what's missing is the right financial incentives to make that happen. And by introducing this blockchain-associated conditioned smart contract incentive, each time you touch that green dollar, and each time you use that green dollar, you create multiple green so-called second round effects. This green currency system, it suddenly becomes an incentive to swap your traditional ancient fossil projects into green projects.
Risk into the market, but the lawsuit went through and there was a ruling. And as you mentioned, the ruling found that it was not a security in most aspects. And so it is back in the index where it belongs, just like it's there, you know, with your pillows. So we're ready. We're right there with you.
Finally, to tie XRP back into all this, maybe since the minting process of proof-of-work tokens requires real-world energy output, they do have real-world value. And maybe this means proof-of-work is the truest way to bring value from the real world into the digital space. And although proof-of-work tokens do send slowly over their own networks, maybe sending them over their own networks was never really the purpose at all.
Ripple did not actually issue XRP. Some of the creators of the XRP ledger actually had been early engineers that worked on Bitcoin, and they saw some of the scalability problems that Bitcoin was likely to have, and they wanted to build a better digital asset to solve some of these problems.
Maybe the purpose of these proof-of-work coins was just to establish value in the digital space in the first place. And then once value was attached to these coins, they could be sent over one unified ledger at the speed of light for almost nothing. And that's where XRP comes in. And maybe one of the main purposes of XRPL is to make sending these digital energy-backed tokens of the future easier and more efficient by using a different complementary system, a consensus algorithm. And maybe these systems are both needed. One, proof of work to bring real-world value into the blockchain by requiring energy to be minted, and two, XRPL's consensus protocol to provide the necessary plumbing for transitioning the existing financial infrastructure to digital. It's genius. Think about it. All these banks Ripple's partnered with have their own APIs and software already built, and they need a bridge, the XRPL, to link the old system to the new one and make everything more efficient.